Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fuel Run Recover podcast, where I'm really excited to be joined by a guest here with me, Kyle Kenyon. Kyle and I actually go way back to our high school, maybe even before that, like elementary
Yeah,
school
elementary school, yeah.
days, which is really fun that we've kind of come full circle here, and I had the immense pleasure of being able to help Kyle get ready for his recent marathon, and he's going to tell you all about that experience of setting a goal and what happened with his most recent marathon. So, welcome to the podcast, Kyle.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
All right, awesome. So, of course, we want to start off by letting everyone get to know you a little bit better. So, just tell us about yourself, your background with running, and anything you want to share.
Yeah, well, I am a 37-year-old carpenter. I have a pretty active lifestyle, a 9-year-old daughter and a wife, and we just love being outside, canoeing and kayaking and fishing. And I never thought I'd be a runner in my life, like ever. In high school, I could not run a mile. I think, in gym class we had to do like, do you remember that track
Sure
in
do.
in the comp? And it was just like this dirty, dank track underneath the gym. I think I ran like a 17-minute mile back then, and it was just like the worst thing in my life. I hated it. I hated every second of it, and never wanted to be a runner. So the fact that I'm doing this now, it's kind of I don't know. I never thought I'd be able to do it, and I'm loving every minute of it. So yeah,
Yeah. And so this was not your first race though. You have been a runner for a little while prior to this particular marathon that brought us together to do a coaching program for you. So tell us a little bit more about how you got into running in the first place after hating it so much as a young person.
yeah. I started running probably later in life than a lot of people. It was my early 20s. And honestly, my ex-girlfriend was a runner, and I was trying to impress her. And
It's a
it's
great
a stupid
reason.
reason to
Great
start
reason.
running, right? But I uh, I did a couple half marathons. I got my dad into running with me back then, and we ended up really liking it. He was my training partner. He's kind of aged out. He doesn't want anything to do with running anymore. but him and I ran a lot together. We did a couple halves together, and we did the full together. And then I kind of kept on going without him. I upgraded to ultra marathons and trail running, and that's kind of my passion now is trail running. Like I love everything about it. I never thought I'd be running a marathon again on pavement, but sometimes goals change and you adjust. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So coming from, going from like becoming a runner, half marathon, full marathon, ultra marathon, the natural progression that so many people seem to take,
yeah.
you came back to wanting to run another marathon. So tell us about that goal and how that came about, that became something that you wanted to accomplish this year.
Yeah, well, last year, it was about, yeah, it was last Manitoba Marathon. My daughter's school, our old school, they have a run club, and she joined it and worked really hard. And she joined the marathon club, and she ran the 5K, and she asked me to do it with her last year. So I did it with her, and like the whole atmosphere of the Manitoba Marathon just blew her away. Like everything about it, she just fell in love with it. She loved every second of it, and that as soon as we passed the finish line, she kind of dared me to run the full again. And being the super competitive person I am, I agreed to the dare. Again, I'm not a road runner. I don't enjoy it anymore. But I said, you know what, I'm going to do this, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities and see what I could actually do. I've never been like a super fast runner, so the first full marathon I did, my dad and I did it. I think we were like 4:45,
Hmm.
4 hours and 45 minutes. And whatever, time isn't a big deal to me, but at the same time, it's like I'm pretty sure I'm capable of doing it a little bit faster, and I want to know what I can do, kind of thing. And I told Nora, my daughter, I said, "Well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can." And realistically, I know what I'm capable of, and I don't want. I want to be set a goal that I could reach. I don't want to say I'm going to do it in 3 hours because I don't think I can. Like that's just not feasible for me at the moment. But I set a sub 4 hour goal and worked really hard to reach it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, at what point in that whole process, because you set the goal, I mean, it's, almost a full year before you actually had to run this race. So, I mean, you're not new to training, right? You're not new to following training plans. You're not new to, anything within that whole aspect of running. But at what point did you think to yourself, you know what, I probably need some help in actually being able to achieve this or like have that program that's laid out for me?
Yeah. Well, last September I was supposed to do a race, and I just it didn't happen for me. But I started training. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start training in September and see what happens after that. And, maybe I'll do act or yeah, it was active Epica. Maybe I'll do that in January or February. I had a couple goals, and I started training and I went way too hard and ended up hurting myself again. And no matter how many times you like read a program or just think you know what you're doing, sometimes it's better to have a little bit of outside help and tell you the proper way of doing things, I guess. So I think it was like January where I was just sick of being hurt and not
Hmm.
doing things right. And I just wanted to make sure I reached that goal, and that's why I reached out to you, and I wanted to hit that goal, and I think it was a really good choice.
Yeah, and I think that like, you can have a lot of experience as a runner. Like you can be, like not new to running, not new to following a training plan, not new to being able to Google a plan online or something like that. But there is something different about actually having that person that's going to take a look at you as an individual and create a program around you and what you want to accomplish. Like it's not just kind of a cookie cutter plan that you could just easily print off the internet, or at the very least it shouldn't be. But I think for people listening that have a lot of running experience that kind of think like, well, what would be the value or the benefit of working with someone if I already, like, I know how to run, I don't need to be told, is just that personalization aspect.
Well, for sure, and I think the accountability, and not to say that it's like, oh man, if I don't do this run, Steph's gonna yell at me or something. It's more so like just knowing that someone is watching your program. It helps keep you accountable, and
Yeah.
like I for one found that like when I was doing my own programs, it was easy. You know what, I'm just going to take a day off, whatever, it's not a big deal. But just knowing that someone is making sure you're accountable really kept me motivated, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, as you mentioned, you are a carpenter and you have a very active job. And so, you're on your feet most of the day, especially, as the winter turns to spring, turns to summer, probably even more so with just, the long hours and stuff like that. So, for people who are listening to this that are in a similar position as yourself, who have like really active jobs, are on their feet all day, plus they're trying to fit in all of this training, what kind of advice or tips do you have for just managing that load and just being able to do the volume of running that you had to do?
For me, it was just following the plan, a lot of it. The weight training that you added to the plan was really beneficial because as a runner, I never used to do weight training. I was always like, you know what, I have a very physical job. I'm just gonna count that as my
Mm.
physical, weight training kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I think that really helped. I did a lot of stretching. The foam roller was really good for me. We are lucky enough to have a hot tub, so I probably spent a lot more time than I ever have in there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and just, getting the proper rest, taking the proper rest days. That Sunday rest day was really big for me. And, I didn't do anything. I didn't hop on the bike. I didn't do push-ups or anything. I was just like, you know what? This is my day. I'm not doing anything. And I think that was really important for me. But yeah, maintaining the proper sleep schedule too is huge for that.
Yeah. So really emphasizing, that quality recovery and putting the additional emphasis on recovering so that you can maintain and continue to do all of the things and sort of tolerate that stress load. And not to say that there weren't, for people listening that maybe think this whole thing was just, kind of easy breezy from start to finish. There definitely were a few times that you came to me and you said, "Hey, you know what? Like my foot's bugging me or your hip, but like there were a few little things along the way that we had to work around and problem solve, but having that emphasis and that focus on recovery obviously made a significant difference in that you were able to still get in the miles that you needed and get in that volume.
Yeah, and I think you have to know your body too. And I think a lot of times you're sore, and you have to know if it's like an actual serious pain, or if it's like, you're like, oh, I'm sore today, I'm just not gonna run kind of thing. It's there's a difference between actually being hurt and being sore for me, I think. And I think just getting to know your body a little bit and what you're capable of is kind of beneficial. I know that my foot was really bad at a couple times there, and then you sending me the information on what it could be, and just simple stretching fixed it. And it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, kind of thing. Just finding the issue and addressing it is very beneficial for sure.
Yeah, that's such an important point to make. And, in your case and in a lot of cases, things are usually not a huge deal. And yeah, maybe a little bit of deload time, a little bit less volume for a couple of days. Definitely some stretching and foam rolling can often help with some of those minor issues. But, it's so important to be addressing those things, almost as soon as they pop up, to be like, okay, I have this little ache or pain. Let's address it and let's see what we can do about it, because small problems really become big problems if we aren't taking steps to fix what the underlying issue is. And for a lot of runners, it could be something as simple as just a tight muscle or some tightness or imbalance in an area that we can easily fix with a little bit of mobility work or foam rolling. But, sometimes there is something bigger going on, and it's so important to address those things early, especially when your mileage is lower, because it's only going to get worse as you add volume to that plan.
Well, yeah, for sure. And like with my foot issue, I know it was such a stupid spot for it to be sore. And I'm trying to like describe to you what's going on. Like, hey, Steph, like where my toes connect to my foot. I got, I, I know what you're saying, but and like when you were able to actually figure it out and give me some literature on it, and because like even you were like, that's new. Okay, let me let me do some research here. And
It's true. And I mean, we deal with, the odd sore knee, sore ankle, sore hip, lower back, that kind of thing. But specific foot pain and stuff like that, the foot is a very complex part of the body, right? There's a lot of moving parts in the foot. There's a lot going on in the foot. And, is it a problem that's coming from, the toes or the footwear going up the chain, or it's something from the top of the chain, the hip, the knees, etc., coming down? So foot stuff can be a little bit trickier, I find, to figure out than some other things. But of course, it's always important to kind of know where your discomfort level is, and sort of, like you mentioned, what your what you're able to sort of tolerate in terms of discomfort, and where is that threshold into pain, and where is it an injury that now we're needing to take care of and address.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And you're right. Like when I was first started doing like half marathons and stuff, my pain threshold was zero. Like it was like, I thought I had shin splints. I thought I had everything that could possibly go wrong. And it was just like any excuse not to run kind of thing. And as you progress as a runner, I think you do learn a lot.
All right. So, talk to us a little bit about your nutrition. That was definitely something that we wanted to take a closer look at, and make sure that as your mileage increased, and as you were doing more work, you also were able to fuel all of that extra exercise, and make sure that you were eating well. Because not only are you, doing all of this running, and making sure that you're finding time for all the training, but you also have a very active job as a carpenter, and needing to be on your feet most of the day doing really hard manual labor can definitely add to one's nutrition and hydration needs. So tell us a little bit more about that, and how you kind of modified things, especially as the seasons changed and it got warmer out.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the old bank account, but I'd say the grocery bill went up quite a bit. I Yeah, it was eat a lot. Um, I did actually really watch what I was eating. I was, try not to feel like crap all the time. So, actually, as a carpenter and someone who has that lifestyle, we tend to maybe not eat the best. So, grab and go kind of thing. Go grab a sandwich from Safeway or something. And I found that like actually packing lunches and making sure I wake up an hour before work instead of just walking out the door, getting that proper breakfast and having a snack, that was huge. Hydration wise, I've always been pretty good at hydrating. So, just always have a bottle of water or a jug of water at work and just make sure you're always drinking. Is I don't know. I kind of keep it simple that way. But when I'm thirsty, I drink, and I'm always thirsty. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, just from working with, a lot of tradespeople over the years, and having a lot of experience with people in that sort of industry, working in the trades, there's definitely, a little bit of a notoriety of meal skipping, lots of very early mornings, lots of really long days, especially, depending on the seasonality of the work that you do. But, definitely not taking the time to sort of fuel properly, maybe not taking a lot of breaks throughout the day, and especially not stopping for a proper lunch break, just tends to be a little bit of a part of the routine for a lot of people working in that industry. And so that plus marathon training, you can definitely start to run into some problems with underfueling.
no, and it's you like I don't want to use a carpentry pun, but you hit the nail on the head there. Like skipping lunch for us is just it's kind of the norm, and I find even as the weather gets hotter, that's when we really stop to skip lunch because you're just not hungry. You're working outside and it's hot all the time, and you go and if you sit in an air conditioning truck, you're not going to get out of it. So you just, you know, you keep working through. And then it's like when you do get home after you sit in the air conditioning in the house for an hour or two, it's just like go time. It's just like everything that's available, you grab and you eat. So trying to get out of that bad habit, that's the major thing for sure. And it seemed to work pretty good this time.
All right. So we've gotten through months and months of training. You've done all the workouts, you've done all the fueling, you've done all the hydrating, you've put in all of those early morning and late nights to get the training done. And now race day is here. So tell us, what happened on the day of the race, or I guess even in the couple days sort of leading up to the race, the final preparation, and the day of, what, your strategy was going into the race, and how it all played out.
Yeah. So race day, it. it went pretty much as planned, but I also did some stuff wrong. Um, Looking back, I know you asked me how it went, and I said, yeah, I think I did everything right. But now that it's been a month or so, or I guess a few weeks, looking back, I probably did a few things wrong, and I found the 3:45 pacer at the start line, and I thought to myself, yeah, I could do this. I'm going to do a 3:45 marathon. That's the new goal, and I set that
Yeah.
race day goal.
The race day magic. I love when we have such a strong belief in the race day magic.
Yeah, so I blew the doors off of that guy. I stuck with him for the first 5 miles,
Yeah.
and then at about the half marathon mark, I was probably way too far ahead of them.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I did a nice half marathon time. I was having a great time. I was feeling good. I actually got a PR for that half marathon on my watch anyway. So, I was doing good, and maybe a 340's doable at this point, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
feeling great. And there's a couple people who were in that group with me that broke off, and I kept up with them. And then at about mile 19, um, I started feeling it. I was like, oh, yeah, maybe I'm a little too fast right now, and I
Yeah.
slowed myself down, and all of a sudden the 3:45 guy was right behind me, and all right, that's great. I'm gonna go run with these guys again. Found my
Yeah.
crew. We're good. And then he looked at his watch and he said, "Guys, we need to pick up the pace. We're running behind." It's like, oh no, no, that's not what you want to hear at mile 19. So
Yeah.
I stuck with them till about mile 22, and then I was just cooked. Like I was like, you know what, I did a lot wrong. I can realize it now, and I hung on for dear life, but I couldn't stick with them. And all of a sudden, the 350 guy caught up with me, and I was like, okay, new plan, 350 marathon, we're good, like we're golden. And I stuck
Yeah.
with them, and then yeah, with like a mile left, the 355 guy caught up with me, and I was like, okay, if I don't keep up with this crew, I'm not going to hit my goal. So I just took everything I had left in the tank, and I stuck it out with those guys, and I got my sub 4 hour marathon. I got 3:55 like
Yeah.
30 or something like that. And
Love
I
it.
mean,
Love
yeah,
it.
yeah, it was super exciting. I was super happy with it. I think if I would have stuck with that 3:45 crew the whole time, I probably could have did like a 3:45 3:50 marathon.
Yeah.
um but I got a little greedy, and lessons were learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, race day was really good. It was super cool. Afterwards, seeing my daughter and my wife, you have all the emotions. They did the 5K together this year, and which was amazing. Liz is getting into running now, and she's never really been a runner, so she's doing great. And I mean, Nora, I could probably just throw her in the full marathon and she'd do it no problem. So, but yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I think I have this conversation with my clients before every single race, after every single race, right? The biggest thing is just we go out too fast. We get excited, like you said, maybe a little greedy with our pace. We're tapered, we're carb loaded, like we just feel so ready. And off the start line, everyone else is just booting it. And so you kind of get swept up in the adrenaline and the excitement, and you think, man, like, I don't want to hold back. Let's see what I can do. And there's absolutely a time and a place in a race situation to see what you can do. But oftentimes it is just that going out too fast in the beginning that ultimately the amount that you slow down is going to not make up for how much time you put in the bank in that first half. But I mean, in your case, it all worked out. It all came to a nice end that you were still able to reach your goal despite maybe some pacing miscalculations right off the bat in the beginning. So that's good.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I reached my goal. towards the end it wasn't pretty, but I reached the goal. So,
Yes.
it was good. And I know I know I did it wrong. Like I know that you're not supposed to go out too fast, and you know all these rules and you still do it no matter what, right?
Yes.
It's just
Every
the
time.
game magic gets you.
Yep. Yeah. And like, not that no one in the history of ever has been, kissed by the race day fairy and had just like this amazing performance. But I would say more often than not, we do need to slow it down and be a little bit more conservative off the start line. And I mean, that's just a lesson that I think everyone learns the hard way many, many, many times before they finally kind of get into that, more mature pacing strategy, I'll call it. But I think that that's great. And, I don't know if you'll ever come back to the marathon again, if you'll ever do another one in your lifetime, but now having that benchmark for, what your PR, your new PR is, and what that looks like in terms of not just your training plan and what your race pace, kind of marathon pace looks like, but then also knowing what your goal race pace will be going into the day. Those are all things that when you don't have a lot of marathon experience or recent marathon experience, you don't necessarily know what that pace might be. Like it's different if you've been doing lots of these same races and you kind of have an idea of what all those different gears feel like. But if it's been years since you've done a marathon, like you're kind of just having to really figure it out along the way sometimes.
Yeah, and you're constantly doing the runner's math in your head, right? You, and maybe the math was a little bit skewed in my case this time. My previous half marathon personal best was like an hour and 52, and that was just in training, right? And then to think that you're going to do the full marathon in like 340 is kind of skewing the math, right? Because you're not going to do the second half marathon during that full marathon run. You're not going to do it as fast, as the first time. So yeah, sometimes the math gets a little bit skewed, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, if someone is listening to this episode and really resonating with your story, whether they're gunning for a marathon PR, maybe they, have previously run ultras and stuff like that and are thinking of tackling the marathon distance again, or they're listening to this as somebody who maybe works, on their feet a lot of the day, really long hours in the trades or maybe something else, and they're really kind of resonating with your story and your experience here. What advice do you have for runners who are where you were at 6 months ago?
Honestly, hire a coach. Like it really helps you. It helped me a lot. It makes, it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It takes a lot of the, I don't want to say stress of running, because the running's not stressful. Running's, for me, it helps me relieve stress. That's the whole reason I run now. That's my reason for running. But it just takes the guesswork out. You don't have to think, and you don't have to plan yourself. You just, you open up that app and, okay, here's what I'm doing today. And it was just so good. It just made life so much easier and better. And so I would hire a coach, and I would just do everything I'm told to do and do it to the best of your ability, and be a drone, I guess, like, tell me what to do, coach. I'm here. I'm an empty vessel. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that's definitely one of the major, major benefits of working with someone is just, having the planning of the workouts and sort of the figuring out what to do, how to train, taken off your plate. I mean, I see this like 8,000 times a day, on social media, in so many of the Facebook groups that I'm in for runners, stuff like that, where, everybody is looking for advice. Everyone's looking to be told what to do. Hey guys, I want to train for this race, or I want to, do this time, this distance, etc. What should I do? Looking for advice, looking for help. And for so many of these people, they would benefit so much from working with a coach and sort of just hiring someone. because when you start to sort of crowdsource that information, getting, everyone's opinions on what you should do and what worked for them, you are not necessarily going to get a clear picture of what works and what is best for you. And I mean, add to that, like your role as a business owner, of someone who is very busy, already has a lot on the go, a lot on your plate, to have the training and the planning of the workouts and understanding the theory and sort of the science behind the different workouts that are being programmed, and like why I'm getting you to do certain things and stuff like that. All of those things are just sort of taken out of your brain, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to figure it out and try to come up with that strategy. You can just show up and you can just run and just follow the workout. And when you have questions, when you have issues, there's someone to go to kind of bounce those things off of and get that advice and feedback.
For sure. For sure. It was just, I don't know. It just took so much off my plate, and I was very thankful to have that. And it just, like you say, it was one less thing to do. It was great.
That puts, kind of a great ending to that training plan, that race, getting your PR. But I know that, you come to us here from the ultra running space. And, as you mentioned at the top of the episode, that's something that you've spent a lot of time doing, and you've done a lot of races there. So tell us, what is next for you running wise? What are you training for now?
So I am signed up for the Beaudry Fall Classic in October, the start of October. It's a 24-hour race, and it's a 6 kilometer trail, or just a little bit over 6 kilometers. And you just try to run it as many times in 24 hours and see what you can do. And I've signed up for it the last 2 or 3 years in a row, and I've missed it every time. The last time I attempted it was, I think, 2019, and it kicked my ass. Like, I dropped out after 12 hours. It was muddy. It was knee deep mud. Like, my buddy was doing the 48-hour version of it, and he dropped out after 24 hours. And I saw him at the start line, and he handed me his walking poles, and he's like, "Just take these." And I'm like, "Dale, like, I don't run with poles. Like, I don't need those." And he's like, "Kyle, you can't even stand up out there. You need these." And I was like, "Oh, cool. This sounds awesome." So um, I'm hoping for a little bit drier experience this time. And I'm super excited. Like, it's gonna be fun. I have a buddy I went to carpentry school with. He's running it this year, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it too. Like, it's gonna be fun. It's that weird type two fun, I think, right? Like, it's fun looking back at it, it's fun, but at the time it's just a sufferthon. It's just yeah.
Exactly. Not necessarily fun at the time when you're doing it, but you're glad you did after it's over, and you always appreciate the experience.
Yeah, and I'm hoping one of my best friends can crew me again, because he's kind of like a no nonsense. He's a elite cyclist, and like he knows that pain threshold. So if I try to sit down, he's gonna be like, "Get back out there." He's not gonna let me sit down for too long, and he's gonna keep me accountable. And that's what you need in a crew in a race like that. You need someone to boot you and get you going again. And I don't think you need someone with a soft touch. You need someone with a good bad attitude. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. You're not going to invite your mom to come crew with you or anything like that. She'll be letting you quit before you're ready and before you're done.
No, mom's stay out of there.
So, right as Kyle and I were about to wrap up our recording of our really great episode here, talking about his marathon and getting into our conversation around his ultra running and what he's training for coming up this fall, unfortunately, I ran into some technical difficulties on my end and, was not able to get reconnected to do a proper sign off. So, my apologies to Kyle. And, for everyone listening, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you found it helpful, of course, to hear a story from a real runner. Not only a real runner, but someone who has a busy job as a business owner, is very active with work, on his feet all day long, still trying to fit in the time for training, staying hydrated, keeping up with nutrition, doing all of these things. I thought that it was just such a great story for all of you to hear and, to see that you can have an active job and, work outdoors or own a business or have a family and still make the time for training. Is it easy? No, but is it doable? Absolutely. So I really hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Kyle, and we will see you right back here for next week's all new episode. Thanks. Bye for now.